Good afternoon and welcome to today's edition of the Afternoon Edition. My name is Isa Nu. Today we shall be looking at the health angle of life, and definitely for many of us who lives here in Nigeria, and most especially those in sub-Saharan Africa, you won't say that you are not aware of what malaria is all about. For many of us, we've either felt sick of this particular disease, or for those who feel that, okay, maybe they are immune to malaria. Well, there are so many issues to discuss on this particular day, which is the World Malaria Day. Are we actually, or are there people who are actually immune to this particular disease? Because there are several cases of many Nigerians who actually suffer from this particular disease, and also so many people also die from this particular disease. And as you know, today marks the World Malaria Day with a theme known as Malaria Ends With Us: Reinvest, Reimagine, and Reignite. These are four phrases that are very, very important, most especially when we actually say, yes, we want to deal with the issue of malaria in the world. The World Malaria Program is a huge investment by the world leaders to see that, yes, they can actually put, or we can actually put a stop to malaria, most especially in sub-Saharan Africa, and more specific at this particular point in time, Nigeria. And if you delve it down there, you also say, okay, in FCT where we are, we also have to play a key role. So today we'll be having that conversation with some of the stakeholders. Well, let me say one of the stakeholders, because the other person is yet to be part of this program. But we have someone who is an expert in the FCT that will tell us more about the malaria program in person of Mrs. Patience Ilukweju. She is the case management officer of the FCT malaria elimination program. I'm here in the studio, but then definitely we'll go on a very short break. Just stay tuned. When we return back, we'll start from asking her, has she ever felt sick of malaria disease? So let's go for this break.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of ASO Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, ASO Television DSTV Channel 392, Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
Come back from that mild break, and just before the break I did inform you that we are having Ms. Patience Ilukweju, the case management officer of the FCT malaria elimination program, and also she is in the public health department. Ms. Ilukweju, good afternoon and welcome to the afternoon edition.
Thank you for having me.
It's nice having you, and before the break I did mention something, but before we go into that question, let us first and foremost look at this World Day, the World Malaria Day. How important is this day? Because we've been hearing of malaria right from birth till this particular point in time, and the question still remains, will malaria ever end?
Thank you very much. That's a very profound question.
Yeah.
Like you said, during the intro, the theme for this year's World Malaria Day is Malaria Ends With Us.
Yeah.
Reinvest, reignite, reimagine, stay connected. So we know that malaria is endemic in this sub-Saharan Africa, and which Nigeria is part of it. Malaria is a life-threatening disease that is caused by a parasite known as Plasmodium falciparum, transmitted by infected female Anopheles mosquito. When the mosquito bites a healthy individual, so that parasite is being transmitted into this individual, and subsequently the person comes down with malaria. The parasite goes into the bloodstream and is transmitted to the liver, where it replicates, and as it replicates, it also brings down the person's immunity, and fever sets in, and before you know, we say the person is already having malaria infection. So basically, malaria is some people are vulnerable. The children that are under 5, and also, of course, adults. You were talking about if I've ever fallen sick. Of yes, and I'm sure many of us, one time or the other, will have had this episode of malaria. So, like, coming back to your question of the World Malaria Day, is an annual event that is put together for us to have a reawakening on this scourge, on the need to put resources together. You invest is there, put minds together, reimagine, reignite, so that we can get to a point where we can say we have a world that is free of malaria. And of course, we are driving it down to the FCT. And you know, like you introduced, we are from the FCT Malaria Elimination Program, and maybe as we go across, as we go along the program, I will let you know some of what our goals, our vision, our mission is as a state, to see that this malaria scourge is brought down to the barest minimum.
You say you've ever felt sick of it?
Well,
and how was your experience?
Yes, I think it's been a while. Just to be honest, it's been a while that I had malaria. You know, they will normally say that depends on genotype. But I don't agree. One mosquito bites you,
I was even coming to that question, but let me allow you to just finish this particular aspect, because that is one thing that has been a major misconception for many.
Yes. So, like I said before, when malaria bites a female infested female Anopheles mosquito, when it bites you, notwithstanding your genotype, and the parasite is transmitted into your bloodstream, you are prone to come down with malaria. So I've had it long time ago, no recent episode. So why that? Because of course, as you go along, you need to know how to the preventive measures, which we still go to look into. You prevent yourself. You all the measures that you're supposed to put in place for you to make sure that malaria is put at bay from your home, from their community, from our environment, from our nation. I make sure once in a while, I put them in practice, and I see myself not having issues of malaria infection.
But in this particular case, there are so many people who actually believe that irrespective of how you try as much as possible to prevent this, it's still coming to you. Probably you are still beating, maybe you are in your car driving home, or one way or the other, it still comes back. But then, looking at this particular aspect of immunity now, for instance, where people do believe that some persons actually can fall down as a result of malaria disease, how true is that?
I think it's one of the myths that we are trying to how will I put it now, to
beat down,
to disabuse. The truth about it is that once you are bitten by an infected mosquito and you have the parasite in your blood system, malaria comes down. So the only education or advocate will tell people, what we advocate is that people should make sure that as much as possible, even as government, to make sure that that all the incidences of malaria are brought to the barest minimum. Keeping our environment, we'll see get there, keeping our environment clean, sleeping under ITNs, and of course, particularly the vulnerable age group. We should make sure as much as we can that this incidence is brought down so that they can live healthy lives. Of course, when malaria infection happens, it affects us in different ways. Economically, the child or even the adult might not be able to go. The child cannot go to school. The adult cannot go to work. Then it affects us also physically. You are down, chills, fever, the symptoms are caused with it. Even when it goes to severe malaria, you might need to be hospitalized. It also affects us academically. Of course, the child cannot go to school. So many areas of our life that is affected by this infection. this malaria infection. So we need to make sure that we all come together, even as the theme suggests, that we should stay connected, and it has to end with us. It has to be our collective drive to make sure that we take malaria out of our world.
You are the case management officer of the FCT Malaria Elimination Program.
Yes.
How far have you gone?
So in the state, we are in charge of coordinating the activities of case management in all our facilities. So the case management encompasses the treatment, prompt treatment and management of malaria cases, whether being uncomplicated or the severe malaria. So when a malaria incident is uncomplicated, it means that the infection has occurred, but the symptoms, the person has fever, but the symptoms are not yet as severe as the case of the severe malaria that has not progressed. So it's when the uncomplicated malaria is not treated promptly and effectively, it cannot progress to the severe malaria. So also it depends on the person's immunity and the ability to treat on time. So we always advocate prompt treatment for uncomplicated malaria so it doesn't progress to the severe malaria. Of course, we know the recommended drug for it is by the WHO is ACT, the artesunate combination therapy. That's the ACTs. That's what we use in managing the uncomplicated malaria. So that's what we normally do at the facilities. And also, case management involves prompt diagnosis. You cannot just conclude the person has that malaria when you have not diagnosed. So normally we try to tell people not to avoid presumptive diagnosis, which is I just see you and I say, oh, you have malaria. I've not tested you. We've not done any diagnosis. You haven't done anything. And what is recommended is the RDT, the MRT, which is a malaria rapid diagnostic test kits. So it's an effective way or an alternative way of establishing a malaria infection. Then also we have the microscopy, which is the gold standard to be able to know the parasites that are in the bloodstream that is causing this infection. So when we have case management involves prevention, diagnosis, and treatment. So you need to prevent it from happening. Then when it happens, by adventure, you diagnose it. You know this is actually this is what we are dealing with.
We are going for tests.
Yes, using the MRDT and the microscopy. So when you have not established that this case is actually a malaria case, now you now go for the treatment with ACTs.
So in this case, you don't have to rush for drug abuse.
No, because
for drugs that
when you now, that's what I say, we don't allow, we advocate against presumptive treatment. You know, presumptive diagnosis. So you just need to test before you now know that this is malaria. Because if you go ahead and just go and bombard yourself like we normally do, you know, go to across the counter and buy the drugs, it's leading to resistance. You know, that's what's happening now, that you see that some people, they used a particular drug and you see that it's no longer working. You tell you, this person is resistant to this particular molecule, so they need to move to another one. So it's when you are abusing the drug, that is when you are allowing resistance to set in the body.
So in this particular case, now you've mentioned something that when you are used to a particular drug, definitely the issue of resistance is going to build up.
Yes.
And in this particular case, one of the best way is to actually prevent this malaria. But then, if you take a very good look at the study that has been conducted so far in places where malaria is very, very high, the most important aspect of it is that it happens more in urban areas.
Okay, yes.
Urban areas, sorry, rural areas. Rural areas like that are not actually well planned.
Yes.
And in this particular, when you are carrying out your advocacy, how do you address them in this setting? Because this is where they live.
Yes.
And the environment, because of sometimes the way our local authorities manage issues, the environment are not properly planned. Sometimes you see the drainages, the front of the houses, yes, or just behind. And even the mosquito nets, sometimes people are actually not comfortable actually sleeping under the mosquito net. So how do you do it?
That is what we have the advocacy, the communication and social mobilization team, so that they are experts in that field. So they normally go to the communities, engage the traditional rulers, the emirs, you know, their stakeholders. Of course, there are stakeholders in this management of seeing to that we have a malaria-free FCT. So we let them know that clean environment is very important. It's essential to having a reduced malaria prevalence or incidence in the state. So we make sure that even particularly now when the rainfall is about to set in, it's getting to the peak. You know, it's when this is when malaria, the parasites, the mosquitoes breed, and of course the transmission will increase. So we tell them, make sure your environment is clean, cut the bushes. Rainy season will start, the bushes will start growing. Make sure the bushes are clean, are cleared. Make sure that because the running water is a means where mosquitoes breed. The gutters, any pond area, you know, they can breed, and of course they multiply. And what does that mean? More mosquitoes, more infection. So we tell them, make sure your gutters are clean, make sure your grasses are cleared. Generally, a clean environment reduces malaria incidences. So we tell them, the communities, that this is one of the means of bringing down this infection. And talking about the ITNs, we normally have campaigns, you know, which is letting them know that one of the ways of preventing infection, malaria infection, also to sleep under this tent. Most of them will tell you, oh, it's hot, that we cannot manage it. But it's not better for you to manage the heat than coming down with a life-threatening infection like malaria. So this is part of our advocacy mechanism that we use in going to in telling them in the community that this is what we are supposed to do. When we put this in place, then we will see that our malaria incidences will be brought down drastically, at least to the barest minimum.
How often do people actually lose their life as a result of malaria in the FCT?
Well, we have data shows that the most vulnerable population are the children. So, you know, and in all the area councils, we have prevalence rate. In FCT generally, our prevalence rate is 19% now. Okay. Prevalence rate in FCT.
Which is still very high.
Which is high. It's high. So that is why, as a state now, our goal is to, our vision, is to have a malaria-free FCT. Then our goal is to make sure that this, we need to achieve a prevalence rate of less than 10%, you know. So we have 19. So our goal is to make it 10% or less than 10%. Then we also have, we're also looking at reducing the mortality rate of costs due to malaria, caused by malaria, to 50 deaths in 1,000 live births by the year 2025. That's one of our goals, and we are working towards it with all the various strategies that we are putting in place to make sure that we get to this, to achieve this target. Okay,
now let us quickly take another look at this particular theme of the year: malaria ends with us. Reinvest, reimagine, and reignite. Reinvest in what sense?
Okay, reinvesting is, of course, you know, every health strategy needs funding. It has to be well funded before you can say, okay, you are really out to curb or eradicate this menace, which in this case is malaria we're talking about. So very soon now we are going to be having SMC, which is a group of public-spirited individuals or bodies coming together to pool resources to see to the drastic prevention or reduction in malaria cases in children less than 5. So we call it a SMC, which is seasonal malaria chemo prevention. So, and the purpose is to make sure that 80% of the children in FCT do not have malaria, particularly this season, and even throughout. You know, particularly this rainfall season is when the transmission, we know, is high, because like I said before, because of the breeding of the malaria. So the SMC is carried out this period where the rainfall incidence is high, and there's tendency for the mosquitoes to breed, and of course more infection. So you carry it out in this period of 5. We call it a cycle. So 5 cycles in the year. So, and 5 cycles makes a round. So, and over the years, data has shown that malaria incidences have reduced. Children are no more coming down with malaria the way they used to. So because of this intervention, this SMC intervention, which will be rolling out any moment from now. Okay, let me quickly, still on the issue of children not coming down with malaria. That's our hope, yes, because of how vulnerable they are. What about these women who are actually pregnant, yes, at the verge of giving birth? Yes. And we also do notice that sometimes they do have malaria, and if it continues, at some point it gets to stage 2, it becomes more frightening. It becomes an issue of life and death, between the mother
and the child.
Yeah, so that is what we also advocate when we're talking about malaria in pregnancy. So we tell the women that when they are pregnant, during their antenatal visits, there's a course of treatment that is given to them. We call it SP, sulfadoxine pyrimethamine. Pyrimethamine is a preventive drug against malaria. So the pregnant woman, when she goes for antenatal, when she's undergoing quickening, we call it quickening. Some people call it when the baby is kicking. So immediately she noticed that she's due for a dose of SP.
When the baby is kicking.
Yes, so that's SP.
Is it when the baby kicks?
That's the second trimester. That is from 13 weeks.
Yes.
When she starts noticing the movement, that's what I mean to say.
Yes,
then she's recommended to have a dose of SP.
Okay.
So she now takes it, and then that period, then the 28 days interval, she takes another one. It's even safe to take till she delivers. In case she doesn't start it on time.
Monthly.
Yes,
recommended by the doctor.
Yes. So that is a means of preventing malaria in pregnancy. So women take a course of SP in the clinic. Of course, it's directly observed. They notice or see them taking it. So this prevents, because malaria, when the woman gets malaria, it goes to it transmits to the fetus. Then it's now spread around. It will clog the placenta, preventing nutrients, preventing oxygen from getting to the baby. So it now results to having a preterm baby or underweight. The baby is not as normal weight, or even stillbirth or abortion. So that is why it's a very risky issue. So SP is recommended for pregnant women as second trimester to prevent them from coming down with malaria.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Patience Ilukweju. And definitely you are still here with us in the studio because there are several questions that need to be answered. You've actually tell us more. You just told us earlier about the FCT and how you guys are able to help the situation in the FCT, because we are now noticing the level of shanties in the FCT is increasing. So that will also call for more attention, awareness, and enlightenment on this particular program. So we've got a very short break, and then when we return, we'll still be with Ms. Patience Ilukweju, the Case Managing Officer, FCT Malaria Elimination Program, Public Health Department, Health Services, and Environmental Secretariat. Stay tuned when we return.
The welfare of millions of people for generations to come may be affected by the wisdom which we here display. If Nigerian leaders and our British partners are to prove themselves worthy of their trust, now is the time for us solemnly and truly to dedicate ourselves to seeking the greatest good of the greatest number of our people in Nigeria. Independence for Nigeria in 1960 is imperative. But independence for Nigeria as a corporate entity is not enough. The peoples of Nigeria must at the same time be guaranteed their freedom. We must ensure that in an independent Nigeria, individual citizens throughout the land enjoy liberty, human dignity, and equality under the law. There must be one Nigeria with one constitution and one law for all. Let us therefore, Mr. Chairman, sir, close our ears to the counsel of despair, which says that we cannot here at this conference agree on a constitution. If there's any doubt among us as to what should be written into the constitution, let us, as Democrats that we profess ourselves to be, refer such problems, as the Gaulle has done recently, to the people whom we profess to represent, either just before or at the federal elections late in 1959.
Welcome back from that mad break, and then just before the break, we have Madam or Mrs. Patience Ilupeju, who is here with us in the studio, still discussing the issue of malaria. Sometimes it is very, very weakening whenever somebody says he or she has fallen down as a result of malaria. For many of us, we do have symptoms before then, but also she mentioned something very, very important, the issue of prevention. Hope your nets at home are okay in such a way that yes, they've not torn, and then there's no way mosquito, especially the female Anopheles, you cannot actually identify them except by scientists, has entered your room. So you just have to make sure that yes, you flit your room, you make sure that your environment is clean, and you also ensure the safety of your children, most especially those that are at that particular age range that can easily be attacked by this malaria disease. So still with us here in the studio is Mrs. Patience, and let me quickly ask you this particular question. I know there are issues of age range. Some people still believe that no, even the elderly ones, they actually do fall sick, not just the children. So what can you say about that?
For the elderly ones?
Yes.
So like I mentioned before, everybody is prone to malaria. But basically what is important is for us to know that this is an infection that is preventable, is manageable. So it's when it's left unattended to that can lead to death. When it gets to severe, it becomes complicated, it can lead to death. So we need as adults to put all the measures in place for us to make sure that we don't come down. Like we mentioned, the nets. Even in our communities, we had instances of when nets that are given for them to sleep under. People use it in fishing. They use it in fishing. Some use it to
damaging the ecosystem.
Yes, covering their vegetable farms. And it's really a big challenge. But like I said, our advocacy group, they are really on that. Letting them know this is the essence of this is the purpose. So there's no how you sleep under your net and come down with malaria. So they are misusing the nets. But along the line, they are, at least from the data we are getting, people have been enlightened and sensitized that this is the essence of this, the use for this net, and the misuse is really coming down. So the other age group now is the children, which are more vulnerable than the adults. So the children, SMC now, that's why SMC is coming up, like I said, very soon. SMC is targeting children less than 3 months to 59 months.
SMC in full, what does that stand for?
It means seasonal malaria chemo prevention.
Okay.
So it's a strategy to prevent malaria in this target group of 3 to 59 months.
Okay.
They are more vulnerable. So we have a drug or a molecule that we give to them.
From 3 months to like 2 years, is that?
No, 59 months is less than 5.
Less than 5, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So we have a drug known as SPAQ, S-P-A-Q, sulfadiazine, pyrimethamine, and amodiaquine. Is a combination of 2 drugs that aims at preventing malaria in these children. If they take it on the course of, is a 3 days course dosage, then they take it for the 5 cycles, they'll have the required composition in their system that will prevent them from coming down with this malaria. So their body will have used the full complement of this drug, this pack, that will not prevent them from having malaria. So we have 2 strength formulation. One is SPAQ1, which is from the age 3 to less than 12 months, less than 1 year. That's SPAQ1. Is a lesser formulation. Then we have the one called SPAQ2, which is from 12 months to less than 59 months. That is less than 5 years. So that's SPAQ2. It's a blister of 3 tablets. They take it per day. The first, the SP and the AQ for the day 1, then the day 2 and day 3. So when they complete it for that course, that's a cycle. Then the 5 cycles, they have the full complement of the drug that will prevent them from coming down with malaria.
Okay, that's good. But then when it comes to the issue, because you are in charge of this malaria elimination effort that the FCT is trying to put in place.
Yes.
Now, is it possible that we can actually eliminate malaria in totality?
Yes, we are on course.
Is it possible?
Yes, it's possible. The political will is there. That's very paramount. The World Malaria Day, we say reinvest, reimagine, and reignite. So it's very, very possible, because if resources are pumped into this program, be it in the preventive, be it in the advocacy, be it in the other thematic areas, the procurement, and making the drugs available, the drugs both for treatment and for prevention available, and it gets to the last mile, where it's needed. Well, of course, we can really bring this malaria to the barest minimum in the FCT. Like I said, is our goal to see a prevalence rate. We are at 19. We want to see it getting to less than 10%, and also the death, the mortality rate should be 50 in 1,000 live births by the year 2025, and we're on course. I can assure you, we're on course to get into elimination.
Oh, that's good. But then, how is the public health department ensuring this equitable distribution of malaria kits to persons, vulnerable people?
So we have, like I said, of course, when the money do not bring the commodities, be it the nets, be it the drugs, be it the RDTs, which is for the diagnosis, it gets to the last mile, which is the facilities. So the public health ensures that each of these facilities have it as when it's needed, that they are not out of stock. Somebody cannot come to the facility now and with the symptoms of malaria, and there's no RDT to test. So make sure that these commodities get at the facilities at each when it's required, and there's a team to supervise. We have monitoring and supervisory teams that goes around to make sure that the quality of care is enhanced, to make sure that the healthcare workers in the facilities are doing the right thing. They are being monitored, they are being supervised to make sure that this goal is being achieved.
So in this particular case now, one key issue that I know many Nigerians do face actually is how the fake drugs has actually infiltrated the market, and one of the most easiest of it, of it all is the malaria drug. How do people address this problem?
The agency that is in charge of that is
NAFDAC. I understand. How do you collaborate with these agencies?
We partner with them once in a while, to ensure. Like we have a pharmacy at the secretariat. We have a pharmacy, the head of the DPH, the director of pharmaceutical services. They synergize. They have a collaboration with NAFDAC. Once in a while, maybe through meetings, stakeholders meeting, to make sure that most of these PPMVs, they are the ones that are actually they are the ones that are culpable in this act of
PPMVs. Those are
the private patent medicine vendors. That the chemists. Yes, you understand? So they collaborate to ensure that it's only the WHO certified drugs that should be sold, and it should be sold, of course, to the populace. So they carry out visits once in a while to spot check to make sure that every drug, the drugs that they are selling, of course, is drugs that are approved by NAFDAC, and there are no counterfeits. So we have that collaboration with NAFDAC from our Directorate of Pharmaceutical Services.
Okay, in this particular case, throughout your advocacy or your enlightenment program, have there been any major regrets? Or probably, what are the possible gaps that you think needs to be covered as soon as possible?
The one I can really point to is community, the stakeholders, the community members. They are not well informed. You understand? They are not well informed of most of our programs, so they tend to reject. Some reject. Like for instance, this SMC now. You see that you get to use and choose community drug distributors to distribute this drug when we're implementing. So you can see some will get to some houses. Yeah. The parents, the caregivers will say no, I don't want. Because it's normally this distribution is done in the urban, the suburban, and the rural areas. So even across, the rejection is across, the non-compliance is across. So they'll tell you, oh no, I don't. Different reasons to decline, to say no, to reject. But we, of course, we have a strong advocacy team to make them understand this is the essence of this activity, and this is what we tend to achieve. And along the line, we have been surmounting these barriers of non-compliance or rejection to our interventions. You understand? Because when there's rejection, there's tendency for your interventions not to work. So, but we have an advocacy team and the sensitization advocacy and sensitization team that always they go ahead to sensitize the stakeholders, the community heads, the religious leaders, even in the churches, the mosques, to help us tell them that this is the essence of this intervention, is for our own good. So there's no need, when you see them, please welcome them. There's no need to turn them back. So, and we have been having a success in that regard.
So in this particular case, I remember that right from the onset, even in the 80s and the 70s, people do actually complain of this malaria. Isn't
People
it?
don't complain.
No, people do actually complain.
Okay.
Until this moment, so invariably, so much investment has actually gone
Yes,
into it.
yes.
But then there's this particular case of why not? Why is it difficult for us to actually have a malaria vaccine?
Well, the vaccine, I think it is ready. It has been rolled out.
Okay.
Although it's not in full throttle yet in all the states in Nigeria. I'm aware it's already being implemented in Kebbi and Bayelsa. So of course, and it's not yet in the adult. The target group is the children. It's for the children. So of course, it's for prevention. It's not for treatment.
Yeah.
So when even children taking the vaccine we are encouraged, or we let them know that you don't set aside the other preventive measures like sleeping under nets, like making sure your environment is clean. So it's a collaborative measure at this drive in reducing the malaria. So the vaccine for now is not all across, it's just in these 2 states, and it's just in the children. People will be telling you that is this the world bodies, the international partners,
yes,
that
please speak free. Yeah, Naso TV, please speak free.
Yeah. So, but at least in FCT, in Nigeria, the vaccine is ready. It has been deployed in Bayelsa and in Kebbi and in this.
Are you trying to say that people are actually doubting this vaccine or what?
Because people are not per se,
or people
because
are
that
not trusting.
Yeah,
because of our.
How will I put it now? Our beliefs, and doubts. People.
It's actually affecting the acceptance.
Yes, like other interventions also. So it's all boils down to advocacy and sensitization. That it's really go a long way in preventing the children. It's a further intervention in preventing malaria in our children. So I don't know if subsequently it might be scaled up to adults, but for now I know it's mainly in children in these 2 states.
Okay, let me quickly round up by asking you this particular, and I want you to give me a sincere answer. What role do you think the public would have to play in supporting you guys to see that yes, we have malaria at its barest minimum?
Thank you very much. They are all stakeholders in this struggle or in this fight to have a malaria-free FCT. Of course, the world at large. So the public should also be our change agents. Behavioral change is not one-off; it's gradual. So as we are trying to let them know that these are the strategies we are putting in place to make sure that this malaria goes down. The public should also help in sensitizing, spread the news that these are the strategies to bring down malaria. This is what we are expected to do when the interventions are coming to a community. Accept them, don't reject. All the stakeholders should be brought on board to make sure that we achieve our purpose of having a malaria-free FCT.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Patience Ilupeju, for coming on the afternoon edition.
Thank you very much.
It's nice having you. I know how difficult it is to climb the terrain, but then that's part of the beauty of ASO Radio and TV. You are most welcome.
Thank you.
This is how far we can go today on the afternoon edition, discussing with the case management officer of FCT Malaria Enlightenment Program, in person of Mrs. Patience Ilupeju, telling us more about the importance of public health and how we can address issue pertaining to malaria, most especially on this particular malaria day, and that is being celebrated globally to ensure or celebrate or probably creating more awareness about this particular disease, that it is possible for it to be eliminated, and most importantly is for the government to actually reinvest in it and also reignite people's imagination about the possibility that this malaria can actually cause in our society, and also to help us to have a better society. My name is Isanu. Have a wonderful day and stay blessed.